Hi, I'm Lou Manfredini, Ace's home expert. I'm going to show you how to do some faux painting today to mimic the look of shiplapping or planking. There's a big trend right now where people are applying wood to the walls, but what happens when it goes out of style? Well, you can accomplish the same look by just using paint. Okay, so you want to take care of any imperfections that might be in the wall. Holes or cracks can be repaired using a spackling compound and a putty knife. Now, when it comes to spackling, drying times do matter. Some of the lightweight spackling can dry as quickly as 30 minutes and you're ready to repaint. This one that I have is a little bit thicker that I kind of like a little better because it's more malleable when you put it into the holes. One of the tricks you can do that professional painters use is that they hold a bright light and shine it down the plane of the wall. What that allows you to do is really kind of see the imperfections. You want to make sure that you patch it all. So I just take a putty knife and kind of work it in a couple times because I want to fill that hole. Now you see how heavy that is? You don't want to leave it that heavy because that means you have more to sand. Just go ahead and lightly take that putty knife over the top and get it as smooth as possible. You'll see a little ridging there, but that's okay. The next step is to either wash the wall or sand the wall. Now if you're going to wash the wall, you could use something like TSP, which is trisodium phosphate. It's a hard surface cleaner. It's been around a long time. Or my preferred method is to actually sand the wall. In particular, if there's a sheen on the existing paint. You're just kind of going back and forth to cut that sheen, and you'll see that when you take your hand across it, you get all that dust. That's all I'm looking for. After that, you'll take a damp rag and you just wipe it all down to get the dust off. Using a good quality painter's tape, you're going to go around the perimeter of the wall and make sure you take your time. That way you avoid having to do excessive cleanup when the project is all done. Remember, if the wall is wavy, you can't get really long with the tape because you need to be able to move it around so you get a good edge. All right, so I'm going to get right here. I'm going to line it up. You have to set the tape. So now that I know and I look and I see the edge is good, I get my finger on there and I push it down there. So I set it. Now if you see an area, when you look up there and you say, oh, I see a little bit of that bleeding through over there, that's all right. Take a little piece of tape, cut it, okay? And then go right over that spot. I don't care how many layers of tape you put on there, you're trying to get that edge. There you go. And set it. So that we create this picture frame of painter's tape that's set and ready to go so I can put the finish coat on. Now it's time to get that base coat on. And whenever you're doing any kind of painting, you start by cutting in the areas first. We're using a color called 4 Winds. You're gonna get about 2 to 3 inches of paint around the wall. Now when you're using latex paints, you wanna pick a brush that's designed to be used with waterborne paints. This is a synthetic brush as opposed to a natural bristled brush. The good nylon brushes don't get affected by the water that's in the paint. Okay, so I've picture framed the wall with cutting all the paint around it. And I've also taken some paint over the areas that I patched to kind of prime it because we're using a paint and primer in one. Now when it comes to rolling this on, this is a 3/8 inch nap roller. It's not too heavy, it's not too thin, it's like the Three Bears, it's just right. But it's great for a smooth wall like this. When you go to put that paint on the roller, go ahead and load that baby up. Now you don't want it to the point where it's dripping like crazy. And if it's a little too heavy, see how that's a little bit heavier? That's okay. Just work it back and forth to kind of even it all out. And then you can take it across the top edge here. This isn't a very tall ceiling, so I'm able to reach it pretty well to kind of overlap the area where I did the cutting to kind of finish that all off. Stand back in the light and make sure you got good coverage, but know that you're going to come back for a second coat so you get really good depth of color and a beautiful finished wall. And you don't want to waste a lot of time with the tape. I would take it off sooner rather than later because if it dries and you go to peel this away, you can actually peel the paint that you just spent all this time putting on the walls. Once we get all this done, then we're ready to do our design. So it's time to start laying out our lines to create our shiplap look. And you have some choices on how you want to lay that out. There are laser levels that you can purchase. Some you actually set up on a tripod, others you hold up against the wall, or you can do old school, which is pencil and a tape measure and a level like this to mark out little pencil marks on the wall so that you create the individual lines for the effect. You want to measure from top to bottom to find out how many planks you can put there. We chose 8 inches, so every 8 inches we're going to paint a line to look like the planking. Now it's okay if at the bottom the line is a little bit of a different reveal, because chances are you're going to have some furniture down there anyway. We chose an 1/8 inch gap that we measured down from our original layout and applied the tape to the top and the bottom of those lines. The other thing to remember when it comes to marking, you need to keep the tape measure on the starting point. I don't want you doing this coming down every time, because when you do that, you'll end up not being right on the mark. So you can let this hang if you want. Okay, and I'm gonna hold that up right there. There's my 8 inches. Then I'm gonna come down to 16 inches right here and go all the way down the line. I'm gonna do the same thing on this corner, and I'm gonna do the same thing on that corner, and I'm gonna do it midway, and that's gonna allow me to take my tape and bring it across on each one of those marks and then start the line process. I set the tape. Now I'm just gently painting my lines. You don't want to be overly aggressive with the brush. You want to put a light coat on there because it's going to take at least 2 coats. We're using a darker color called Tomcat. Go ahead and lightly apply the paint. Make sure you're not digging in too hard with the bristles because you don't want to get under the tape line. Apply that first coat, allow it to dry, then apply the second coat. After it becomes dry to the touch, you can carefully remove the tape. And you're going to expose those beautiful new lines and the faux look of shiplap or planking on your walls. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to let us know what other DIY projects you'd like some help with.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.